At 59, Gordon Ramsay's life reads like a success story until you see the pain he's been hiding behind the flames. 2 months ago, Gordon Ramsay should have died a shattered helmet, a body turning purple, a man worth millions unable to even dress himself. And just weeks later, cancer carved into his face. But the real tragedy is that this wasn't his first brush with disaster. It was simply the latest chapter in a life built on pain, loss, and survival so brutal it defies belief. How does a man broken this many times keep standing? And what does it truly cost to become Gordon Ramsay? Behind the Michelin stars and the fire of global fame lies a story darker than any kitchen nightmare. And today, we're stepping into it. The day death came knocking, June 2024. Connecticut. A quiet road. A routine bike ride. Gordon Ramsay has done this hundreds of times. Cycling is his escape, his meditation, the one place where the noise of running a global empire fades into wind and rhythm. At 57 years old, he is still pushing his body through triathlons and Ironman competitions, still proving that the kid from the council houses can outwork anyone. Then he hits a pothole. In a fraction of a second, everything changes. The bike stops. Gordon does not. His body launches into the air with violent force. He slams into the pavement. The world goes silent. When he finally stops moving, he realizes his helmet has cracked completely in half. Not chipped, not dented. Split down the middle like something tried to break through his skull. The force that should have killed him was absorbed by 2 inches of foam and plastic. He looks down at his body, and what he sees is horrifying. His entire left side, from ribs to hip, has turned deep purple. The discoloration covers half his torso, like a map of what almost was. His vision blurs. His hands will not stop trembling. He posted a video days later, his voice cracking, his eyes haunted by what he had just survived. I am lucky to be standing here. If I did not have this helmet, honestly, I would not be here now. Millions watched a man they thought was invincible admit he had stared death in the face. The chef who screamed at the world was now whispering gratitude for simply being alive. But fate was not finished with him. 8 weeks later, Gordon noticed a small spot on his face near his ear. Doctors confirmed his fears. Basal cell carcinoma, skin cancer. Surgery followed. Another brutal reminder that time does not negotiate, that the body keeps score of every sacrifice, that even legends are mortal. And while Gordon was fighting to stay alive, another battle raged that he could never win. His younger brother, Ronnie, remains lost to heroin addiction. The same violent childhood that hardened Gordon broke Ronnie in a different way. In 2007, Ronnie was arrested in Indonesia for possession and sentenced to prison. Gordon once admitted he drove his brother to score drugs before their father's funeral. The guilt still haunts him. When you stoop to the depths of heroin, Gordon confessed, it is very rare you get back. 2 sons of the same nightmare, 2 completely different fates. Gordon fears that phone call could come any day. At 58, Gordon Ramsay was being forced to confront what decades of ambition had tried to outrun: his own mortality, cancer, and a brother he cannot save, no matter how much money or fame he possesses. But these tragedies did not arrive in isolation. They landed on a man already carrying wounds that had never healed. To understand Gordon Ramsay, you have to go back to the beginning, to a childhood so brutal, it explains everything that came after. The boy who ran through the night. Long before Gordon Ramsay screamed at chefs on television, he was a terrified child running through the streets in his pajamas. Not from strangers, from his own father. Born on the 8th of November 1966 in Johnstone, Scotland, Gordon grew up in a family that looked ordinary from the outside, but bled violence behind closed doors. His father, Gordon James Ramsay Sr., was an alcoholic whose fists spoke louder than words. His mother, Helen, was a nurse who became a human shield, absorbing beatings meant to destroy them all. "I was born into domestic violence," Gordon has confessed. "My father's fists were the soundtrack of my childhood." The Ramsay family moved 16 times, not chasing opportunities, running from landlords demanding unpaid rent, from debt collectors, from the wreckage of a father who could not hold a job or control his demons. Each new town promised salvation. Each one became another chapter in the same nightmare. Gordon remembers nights when his mother would wake them in panic, bundling terrified children into cars, fleeing to shelters where strangers offered more safety than their own father ever could. Police were called so often the flashing lights became as familiar as the violence itself. Social workers filled reports that changed nothing. At times, Gordon and his siblings were placed in group homes while their mother lay in hospital beds, her body bearing the evidence of what their father had done. "Growing up, my father was less than a perfect role model," Gordon later wrote. "I watched how he battled alcoholism and how he became terribly violent with my mum, to the point where she feared for her life." The cruelty was not just physical. Every gift the children scraped together to buy for their mother would be smashed against walls during drunken rages. Their father's belt was used as punishment for offenses as minor as drinking a Coke from the refrigerator without permission. School offered no escape. At every new school, Gordon was the outsider, the boy with no roots, no history, no friends. He learned to keep his head down, to stay invisible, to never speak of the chaos waiting at home. While other children worried about homework, Gordon worried whether his mother would survive the night. And yet, something was being forged in that crucible of terror. The boy who hid in closets from his father's fury was developing a hardness that would one day make him untouchable. The rage you see on television did not come from nowhere. It was born in a childhood of blood and bruises. The dream that was stolen. Football saved Gordon Ramsay until it destroyed him. At 12 years old, Gordon discovered the one place where chaos could be controlled, where rage could be channeled into power. By 15, his talent was undeniable. Fast, fierce, fearless. He earned a spot in the Youth Academy of Glasgow Rangers, one of Scotland's most legendary clubs. For the first time in his brutal life, Gordon felt hope. Real hope. This was not a child wishing for his father to change. This was a young man who could see his future clearly. Professional football, stadiums packed with cheering fans, an escape from everything that had haunted him. He trained with a ferocity that bordered on obsession. Scouts watched with interest. Teammates spoke his name with respect. His father, for once, was proud. Then, during a routine training session in 1985, destiny revealed its cruelty. Gordon's knee twisted unnaturally beneath him. The pain was instant and catastrophic. Torn cruciate ligament, damaged cartilage. In one merciless second, the dream exploded into dust. Surgeons tried to repair the damage. The verdict arrived like a funeral announcement. His knee would never sustain the demands of professional football. At 19 years old, Gordon Ramsay's career ended before it truly began. "I would give up everything," he later admitted. "All the Michelin stars, all the restaurants, all the fame. I would trade it all to have been a professional footballer. That was my first true love." While his former teammates went on to play in stadiums, Gordon was left adrift, his identity stripped away, his future blank. He fell into a depression so suffocating that mornings felt meaningless. It was his mother, the same woman who had absorbed a lifetime of violence, who refused to let him drown. She pushed him toward a hotel management course, not out of passion, out of desperate survival. At first, the kitchen felt unworthy of the dreams he had lost, but slowly, something shifted. In the unforgiving heat of the stove, in the precision of a knife, Gordon found a new battlefield. The boy whose knee had betrayed him was about to become a man whose will could not be broken. The rise through fire. Gordon's culinary education was not gentle. It was brutal. A baptism by fire that would have broken most people within days. He trained under Marco Pierre White, Britain's first celebrity chef, and a man as brilliant as he was savage. Marco's kitchen was not a place of learning. It was a gladiatorial arena where weakness was obliterated and only the ruthless survived. Pans flew at Gordon's head. Insults stripped away dignity. Humiliation was constant. Marco pushed him to the edge of collapse and then demanded more. "Marco made me cry more times than I can count," Gordon admitted. That brutal apprenticeship carved away every soft edge. Every insult became armor. Every humiliation became fuel. The boy who survived his father's fists was learning to survive something different, the wrath of a culinary master whose standards were as unforgiving as the childhood that had forged him. From London, Gordon moved to France. He worked under culinary gods like Guy Savoy and the legendary Joël Robuchon. In those French kitchens, standards were not simply high, they were impossible. A single mistake could end a career overnight. Perfection was not a goal. It was the minimum requirement for survival. Gordon thrived in that brutality. He pushed himself until the physical and mental stress became unbearable. He took a year working as a personal chef on a private yacht just to recover from the intensity. When he returned to London in 1993, he was ready to prove he belonged among the best in the world. By 1998, at 31 years old, Gordon opened his own restaurant in Chelsea, London. Restaurant Gordon Ramsay was a gamble that terrified him. But Gordon was not simply determined. He was possessed by a need to prove that the boy from the council houses, the failed footballer, the son of a violent drunk, could stand among legends. Within 3 years, the restaurant earned 3 Michelin stars, a feat so impossibly rare that only a handful of chefs worldwide had achieved it. Gordon Ramsay was no longer the boy whose knee had failed him. He was a culinary god, the first Scottish chef ever to earn 3 Michelin stars. Television discovered him soon after. Boiling Point in 1999 introduced the world to his volcanic temper. Then came Hell's Kitchen, Kitchen Nightmares, Master Chef, the F Word, his brutal honesty, his absolute refusal to tolerate mediocrity. His explosive outbursts made him a global phenomenon. Millions tuned in, not just to watch cooking, but to watch Gordon unleash fury that felt cathartic. He screamed what others only whispered. He demanded what others only hoped for. By the mid-2000s, Gordon Ramsay was not just a chef. He was a brand, an empire. Restaurants across 3 continents bore his name. His fortune swelled into tens, then hundreds of millions. The world saw power. Gordon felt only the weight of maintaining it all. Behind the empire, invisible to cameras, cracks were forming. He worked 7 days a week. 18-hour days were normal. 4 hours of sleep was luxury. Friends noticed the exhaustion carved into his face. Family saw how little time remained for anything beyond work. But Gordon could not stop. The boy who had once been powerless now controlled everything, and control was the only thing standing between him and chaos. But empires can collapse. And Gordon's nearly did, when family turns enemy. By 2009, Gordon Ramsay had conquered the culinary world. 17 Michelin stars, restaurants spanning 3 continents, television shows watched by hundreds of millions, a fortune that seemed untouchable. Then the walls started closing in. Gordon Ramsay Holdings was dying. The company owed $10 million in loans, $7 million in unpaid taxes. Profits had collapsed from $3 million to $400,000 in a single year. The expansion had been too fast. 15 restaurants, over 1,000 employees. The empire had grown beyond what the foundations could hold. Auditors delivered the verdict that no mogul wants to hear: bankruptcy. To save everything he had built, Gordon poured £6 million of his personal savings into the business. Money he had spent decades accumulating. Gone in an instant. Restaurants closed. Staff were laid off. The man who built his reputation on perfection watched his empire crack under the weight of its own ambition. He barely survived. But the lesson was carved into his soul. Brilliance does not guarantee survival. Ambition without wisdom is suicide. And then came a betrayal that made bankruptcy feel merciful. Chris Hutchison was not just Gordon's father-in-law. He was his business partner, the CEO of Gordon Ramsay Holdings, the man trusted with the keys to the kingdom. For years, Hutchison had stood beside Gordon, helping build the empire from a single restaurant into a global phenomenon. It was all a lie. Between 2010 and 2011, Hutchison and his sons hacked into the company's computer systems nearly 2,000 times. They forged Gordon's signature using a ghostwriting machine on legal documents worth hundreds of thousands of pounds. They sold information to tabloids. They tried to destroy the very empire they had helped create. This was not a business rival. This was family. The father of his wife, Tana. The grandfather of his children. The man who sat at Christmas dinners and birthday parties while secretly plotting betrayal. In 2017, Hutchison was sentenced to 6 months in prison, but the verdict brought no peace. Gordon later admitted that betrayal cut deeper than anything my own father ever did to me, because I chose to trust him, and he used that trust like a weapon. The financial crisis taught Gordon that empires can crumble. The betrayal taught him something worse: that family can be the enemy you never see coming. The heartbreak that reshaped Gordon Ramsay. Of all the tragedies Gordon Ramsay has endured, none compares to the loss of his son, Rocky. In June 2016, Gordon and Tana were celebrating their daughter Megan's 18th birthday. Tana was just under 20 weeks pregnant. The family posed for photographs, smiling, hopeful. They had no idea that within days, everything would collapse. Tana began experiencing complications, a thrombosis, bleeding, and then the devastating verdict no parent should ever hear. At 5 months pregnant, Tana went into labor. Rocky was born with a strong heartbeat. Tana held her son in her arms, knowing he would not last more than an hour. His tiny heart beating against her chest. His life is slipping away with every passing minute. The silence that followed was unbearable. You go from having a baby kicking inside of you to suddenly it is not there, Tana later recalled. 3 days after Rocky died, she felt an aching in her chest. It was her body preparing to breastfeed, but there was no baby to feed. Gordon released a statement to the world. We had a devastating weekend, as Tana sadly miscarried our son at 5 months. We are together, healing as a family. But healing from such loss is not a weekend. It is a lifetime. There is no book that guides you through that loss, Gordon confessed. You just have to survive it minute by minute. The man who fixes failing restaurants, who demands perfection, who controls every element of his empire, could not save his own son. The powerlessness was suffocating. The grief never truly faded. Even years later, Tana admitted she still suffers guilt. Did I do something wrong? Should I have known something? Some days she is fine. Other days, a small trigger leaves her emotional. Gordon was devastated, but he was not afraid to sit and be sad with me, Tana shared. The family honors Rocky in ways both public and private. Their Cornwall home is named Rocky Bay House. Every family member wears jewelry engraved with his name. His younger brother, Oscar, born in 2019, his star. Oscar once told his mother, "I really do not like him being there. Even a child understands the weight of absence." In November 2023, Gordon and Tana welcomed their sixth child, Jesse James Ramsay. Tana admitted the pregnancy was nerve-wracking after losing Rocky. But Jesse brought something unexpected. "There is a bit of Rocky in Jesse," Tana said, "and it has made us all feel whole again." Today, Gordon Ramsay stands at 58 years old, reshaped by survival, scarred by loss, humbled by mortality. The bike accident changed him. The cancer diagnosis changed him more. The loss of Rocky changed him most of all. For decades, he pushed through pain. Now, he has learned that some battles cannot be won with willpower alone. His empire still hums. Over 40 restaurants spanning 3 continents, television shows watched by hundreds of millions worldwide, a fortune exceeding $220 million. But the success means less now than it once did. The intensity remains, but it has softened. The man who once screamed at contestants until they cried now spends evenings with his 6 children. Megan, 26, twins. Holly and Jack, 24. Tilly, 22. Oscar, 5. And baby Jesse, who carries a piece of his brother in the sky. In September 2024, Holly became the first Ramsay child to get engaged to Olympic swimmer Adam Peaty. Gordon watched his daughter announce she was marrying her best friend, the man who survived violence, betrayal, and loss. Now witnesses his children building lives of their own. Tilly graduated with a psychology degree and launched her own cooking series. Jack joined the Royal Marines. Megan works quietly away from the spotlight. Oscar keeps his parents on their toes, while Jesse brings chaos and joy in equal measure. Gordon told Entertainment Tonight, "Running the Ramsay household is like running a restaurant where no one ever goes home," but he would not trade it for anything. Gordon and Tana remain devoted to breaking the cycle that nearly broke them. They are ambassadors for Women's Aid, fighting domestic violence. The Gordon and Tana Ramsay Foundation works with Great Ormond Street Hospital, supporting sick children and their families. They have raised hundreds of thousands of pounds for charity. The boy who survived his father's fists now ensures other children have a chance to escape theirs. "I have 6 children of my own," Gordon has said, "and I could never see myself behaving the way my father did when I was a child. I want to be a role model for my children and have them look up to me." That promise drives everything. The violence ends with him. His children will never run through streets in their pajamas, fleeing a drunken father. They will never watch their mother be beaten. They will never know the terror that shaped their father into the man he became. He has made clear his children will not inherit vast wealth. "I do not want them to inherit money," he has said. "I want them to inherit values." The scars remain. The brother lost to addiction. The son who never took his first breath, the betrayal by family, the injuries that remind him how fragile life truly is. But Gordon Ramsay has transformed every wound into fuel, every tragedy into determination, every loss into a reason to keep fighting. Behind the flames and the fury is a man who simply refuses to be defeated, no matter what life throws at him. In the end, Gordon Ramsay's story doesn't close here. If anything, this chapter only exposes how much still lies beneath the surface, how many battles were fought in silence, and how many more he may yet face. Because men like Gordon don't simply survive tragedy, they walk straight through it, carrying the fire with them. And as the world watches him step into the next decade of his life, scarred, tested, unbroken, you have to wonder, if this is what he's already endured, what storm is he preparing to face next?